Welcome to the lecture on the global labor force. Um, in this part, we will see basically how global labor force is fitting to the overall um, structures of the world economic system. Uh, Again, as always, we will see the global trends as well as the some specific elements which are brought when we are looking to the whole world, the workforce as a whole, instead of looking to a specific national workforce. And as a starting point, I would like to start with Polanyi's claim, Polanyi's description of the labor market. He has an interesting description because he is claiming that actually labor market is not an actual market. Markets are usually organized according to him for things that are produced and which number of which can be actually modified, and they typically are consumption goods that are used by the people. So things like labor capital, labor money, and the um, land are contradicting with the basic definition of the market. And labor is contradicting because it is kind of like an inseparable identity of an individual. How can you sell your identity? How can you sell something that is inseparable part of yourself? You can participate in a production process as yourself, but you cannot completely separate your labor power from yourself and give it to someone else. Kind of you selling your labor power is equivalent of being agreeing to participating in the production process as subservient of um, the person who bought your labor power, uh, basically. However, because labor is so much related to the person itself, I mean, if I sell you this pen, I don't care what you do with it. You can destroy it. But if I sell you my labor power, I will very much care what you do with it. Um, Whether you use it for certain tasks that endanger my security, or whether you use in certain tasks which are dangerous for my health. For example, if I smell some chemical which might make me sick, for example. So all of these things are very much things I will care. In addition to that, also, uh, well, if the price of this pen goes down, basically, um, as a pen producer, I might close my factory and create a new factory, or even modify my factory and sell something new. But if my labor power is the only thing I sell, and especially when we have an integrated labor market, where I mean selling different skilled labor is not that much important anymore. In that case, if overall labor power goes down, I cannot. People who are selling labor power are usually the ones that don't have any other option. Basically, stopping producing labor power and switching to producing pen is not possible for the workers. So labor is, according to Polanyi, in that sense, a fictitious market. It is created because when production increases to very large scales and demand is fluctuating, going up and down, the companies, in order to be more stable, they didn't want anymore agreeing with people to have them inside of their working facilities, like the old workshops, and basically educating their workforce, teaching them skills, and then typically building long-term relations with them. Rather, labor should be something you can buy whenever you need and stop buying it whenever you don't need it. So you need to have a market of labor and a continuous and available supply of labor you can buy from. And this is the starting point of Polanyi, but this labor market itself is threatening human life, and as a result, according to Polanyi, the solution has been creating, if you treat labor as a market, in some cases its price might go to very low values, or it can be treated as if any input. I can use this pen, as I said, if necessary I can break this down, it's not important, but that will endanger human life and basically decrease the quality of the human stock of the country, and in the end harm the economic system itself. So basically, after the creation of the labor market as a fictitious market, there has been a reaction almost immediately in the 19th century, and step by step certain regulations have been put in place so that labor is not used as cannot be used as any commodity, as well as workers will have been provided as a minimum with a minimum life standard by the welfare state, so that they can basically at least even if their wage level is low, even at least have certain basic needs provided by their mostly states, sometimes communities. Nowadays, of course, this labor market is increasingly becoming global, so the companies are able to buy the labor they need from multiple nations in the world, and as a result, the protections you are giving the workforce of a country might not prevent to have a labor market elsewhere where the working conditions and the protections created by welfare state do not exist. So labor market is functioning more like a market which might be decreasing costs for the company, and in cases in the home countries where welfare state and regulations exist, there can be demands for decreasing these regulations and the welfare state also. Of course, welfare state and regulations might also increase the productivity of the workers in those countries. That might give some advantage to those countries, but especially when we are thinking about the unskilled labor force, basically the countries where labor market is more like any market might be advantageous, as well as the moment the cost constraints are kicking in, companies may make innovations where their need to skilled labor force might decrease, and they can do more and more tasks using them unskilled labor force. In that case, even skills might not be that much useful for finding a job. And skilled labor market might basically sinking to not exactly to the level, but close to the level of the unskilled labor force, basically. So, when we are thinking about the global labor force and creation of labor force, basically, one question is the protection. But the protections we have talked can be spread to the whole world and can be agreed on global labor standards. We have International Labor Organization, which at least aims to create these labor standards, but in no ways, the dialogue has been not nearly successful in actually creating a general agreement on what global labor standards should be. And according to some arguments, not setting global labor standards might be beneficial, because it will let companies to go to the developing countries, and basically workforce there, their best alternative could be worse than the what multinational companies are producing, offering them, and basically as a result, the labor force there can be integrated to the rest of the global workforce because they are more competitive as a result of lack of protection in those countries. And second thing is how to organize this labor force as you can organize it as under single companies that are basically working that have different branches, different places, but you can also organize it. Different companies in different countries might also working together and employing the workforce of their countries, basically. Actually, at this level, we are talking the level of capital, whether different corporations are working together or there is a single corporation that is spread different places. And a single corporation basically brings the workers together and organizes the workers of different countries, while when we are talking on separate corporations, basically the organization is done more indirectly through the companies. But there's actually a third option where, especially through the internet, even if the workers are staying at their countries, they might single-handedly, without actually a separate organization or separate branch of a company that exists there, they might work for them, for some international companies, and in some cases they can do it even voluntarily. For example, Google, as far as I know, doesn't have any office in the TRC, but many people in TRC are working for Google without taking any money from the Google, for example by developing the Google Maps in the Northern Cyprus section of the Google Maps, basically. The third question is mobility. I mean, this is both mobility between different jobs, but also mobility between different regions of the world. And while mobility has been more possible for the skilled labor force maybe a century ago, and even for them relatively limited, in current world, increasing the unskilled labor force is also mobile between countries. Still, it is a small percentage of the labor force, but its relative size is increasing, and it's one of the interesting phenomena of the world. And it is possible to discuss what will be its long-term effect on the world. So, basic trends we have in the global labor force. Well, global labor mobility I have talked on, and a specific case is European Union, where basically the people are moving between different countries. There, according to some views, mobility of workers are relatively limited. People are still not treating, for example, France when they are in Germany or Italy, as if moving to France to work, just like moving from Rome to Milan, for example. Moving to Milan to Rome is a more easy decision compared with moving from Milan to Marseilles. And labor mobility data available for the European Union shows these restraints, and basically I encourage you to look, don't trust to my words. I'm just quickly telling you the basic subjects, and at the very end we will look to some data. An interesting trend is actually, the part of global economic development was shaped by flow transformation of the agricultural labor force to industrial labor force. Now we have a third process where we increasingly start to have more service sector jobs, and then we have freelance labor that is becoming increasingly common. I will talk more on these trends in the next part.